Hey y'all, it's Kristen from Ardani Farm, and we have so much happening on the farm right now. I don't know, obviously you guys aren't here all the time, so you don't know what it looks like, but the garage, the hay barn, our little feed barn is no more. We are building out, we're preparing for winter, as I mentioned in our last video, and one of those things is making sure that we have hay storage that is secure and dry. The building that was here wasn't. It was leaking. There was water coming in from the bottom. We had lost hay because of that. And it's just, we knew going into winter, which is typically wet for us, we had to make some changes. So I'm gonna be really vulnerable here that we decided that it was so important that we actually financed this project. I am very hesitant to do things like that. I'm a big proponent of paying for cash, like paying with cash for things. So I'll just be really honest here that it's causing a little bit of stress on my part. But I'm believing that it's the right thing for the farm and the right thing for our horses and long term, and it's going to improve some of the aesthetics on the farm, getting that old building torn down. And overall, it's the right choice after we kind of weighed all of our options and everything. So that project is underway. Mark and our good friend Rudy took down the building themselves. It was a long process. They did a lot of hard work. So grateful to the two of them for everything that they have done. Rudy was able to repurpose some of the boards that were still functional for other projects, which I also love that it didn't just end up in a landfill. So that is, the barn is down. So we're at the point of no return now. In other news, Melissa's chickens are here. They're wandering around, around somewhere. They're all in the chicken coop. So we've been doing flock introductions over the last couple of days. I guess it's been about 2 weeks. And yesterday was the first day that they spent almost all day out together. They're doing really well. The flocks have integrated. And that brings me more to the, I'm really getting into learning all about the chickens and their diet and how to keep them as healthy as possible while putting them to work on the farm as our fly mitigation specialists. So that is going to be their main job. Obviously, if they produce eggs, that's super too. But the most part, we're going to be leaning on them heavily to help with fly mitigation naturally. So doing kind of dual work here. They're also going to work on our compost. So we have goals to be able to make and sell pesticide, herbicide-free compost, which is digging me down into some other topics that we're researching in terms of chicken feed and all of that. Trying to get our hay. We are partnering with a farm out in Virginia Beach, and he is growing us unsprayed hay that we are testing ourselves so that we're not putting possibly graze-on contaminated hay into our compost that we then put into our gardens. So we do still feed a little bit of alfalfa, and we do feed currently alfalfa pellets, and I'm on a mission to see what we can do to get the horses eating like an entirely natural diet, so without any herbicides or pesticides. So one thing I'll mention is we are in kind of season transition here. We are headed into fall. We are still having pretty warm days, but nights are getting cooler, and we are kind of starting to transition our garden from our summer garden into our fall and then winter garden. By the way, fall gardening is my absolute all-time favorite. It is my favorite season. It used to be spring, but now it's fall. Fall gardening is absolutely the way to go, especially if you're a new gardener. There's just way less pests. The weather is nicer, less weed pressure. So if you're just going to get into gardening for the first time, I highly recommend that you start your seeds now. I'm happy to help you in that. We actually have an intro to growing food class on September 1st, if you're so inclined. So, but one of the things I've noticed is I've been doing my own compost from horse manure for a while. This is our old compost pile that's been resting for a number of months. And it was ready to go into the garden now. And I've started taking some compost from it and to place it into the new garden to refresh those beds. And one of the things that I have noticed is there are no grubs in it. So previously at my other farm, when I was composting without chickens, there were always large beetle larvae, grubs, in the compost. And no big deal, I would just pick them out and feed them to the crows and stuff that were around. But I didn't do that this year because we didn't have any, which was pretty crazy, which means the chickens have been over there. They've been turning that compost, they've been breaking it down, they've been eating the pests that would be in it, and that's pretty cool. So I'm just excited to see that. I'm excited to see, as we dig into this more, what else changes, what kind of things we notice, if the quality of the compost improves. Basically, I'm a student here with all of you. I'm learning, trying new things, and I'll let you know what I find out. But so far, big thumbs up for the chickens being added to this system. And then hopefully I will share with you guys when the new barn is up. We're adding a patio, which will eventually be the very beginning stages of what I hope will be our outdoor kitchen, so that we can host literal farm to table cooking events out here on the farm. But that is in our 10-year plan, so there's a long ways to go there, but we're making steps towards it, and that's all that matters. Okay, so another part of our fly mitigation strategy that we're continually working on to avoid using any pesticides, insecticides, but also keep our horses happy and healthy, right? So filth flies are a problem. They do cause infections and spread disease, and biting flies bite and all those things, right? So there is a need to try to mitigate their prevalence in our equine systems. So one thing that we're doing is on the track, we pick the entire track multiple times a day, and then we compost that manure. So we're pulling everything off the track, which is, if you don't know, filth flies, so your common house flies and the stable flies, will lay their eggs in rotting manure. And what we're basically doing by creating these compost piles is that we are minimizing the surface area available to those flies. So if each pile, was 6 inches across roughly, each pile would give 6 inches of space for those flies to lay their eggs. So when we start to actually pull everything into windrows and compost it, we're only having a 3 foot by 3 foot space available to those flies. So some flies will lay eggs in those piles, and that's where our chickens come in to then later dig through and eat those larvae. There's lots of other types of insects like black soldier flies who will also eat the larvae of filth flies, and they are also in compost piles, and so they will actually be functioning as composters, kind of like in the same vein as earthworms. And so we're creating an environment for those species, our chickens and black soldier flies, where they can do their work, they can eat, and in doing so they are helping us reduce the fly population, and we're just picking up all of the poop that would be housing filth flies and getting it out of the environment. So I hope that helps.